This is Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal, a kingdom situated high in the Himalayas. It's a city of beautiful temples, rich in culture and religious ceremony. It's also a modern city, with over 1 million people and a bustling street life. And it's not just humans that fill the pavements. A great many of Kathmandu's residents are street dogs, and they're so much a part of life here, they go virtually unnoticed. But their presence is a real cause for concern. I grew up in Nepal, and I was always really worried about the conditions that many of the dogs live in. But that's not the only problem. Some of these dogs present a grave risk to human health as well. I've now returned to Kathmandu to see what I can do to help the situation. And the first step is to find out where all these dogs come from. Some dogs are owned, but many of the dogs found around the temples and shops are community dogs. No single person owns these animals. Instead, they're generally cared for by people in the locality and fed on leftover scraps. On the whole, people are kind to their dogs, and they fare pretty well. But with no fences to keep the dogs apart, there's nothing to stop them from breeding rapidly. I went to investigate the problems this creates with Jan Salter, an artist who's lived here for 35 years and who's deeply concerned about the welfare of the dogs.
Oh look, beautiful. This one's obviously got a bandage on, so somebody's tried to take care of it.
They come up against this kind of thing with dogs in their community, and there's really nothing they can do about it. So they just have to ignore it. But
they do what they can.
They do what they can.
Yeah.
They do what they can. Obviously, you can see that here. But there's just too much to cope with. Too many dogs, too many puppies.
Thousands of puppies are born on the streets of Kathmandu every year. Unwanted and uncared for, they're left to scavenge what they can from piles of rubbish found around the streets. These dogs grow up and in turn produce more unwanted puppies, contributing to an ever-growing street dog population, an estimated 25,000 in total, that eke out a living as best they can. And avoiding starvation is only part of the problem.
This poor little thing, I think he's really suffering. He's got terrible mange and has just not stopped scratching and wriggling for a second. This is all too common a sight, unfortunately.
Disease travels quickly through the stray dog population. Starving, covered in sores, sometimes suffering from parvo and distemper. Many of these dogs are like the walking dead. In a country where 40% of the human population live below the poverty line, it's not surprising that these dogs are at the very bottom of everyone's list of priorities. And yet the plight of these poor creatures has profound consequences for the people of Kathmandu as well.
Every year, 16,000 people get bitten by dogs, and it's the children who are most at risk. Not only do they play on the streets, they often like to play with the dogs. These games are sweet, but on occasion, they can prove deadly. As well as infecting the children with worms and parasites, some of the dogs carry rabies, and it kills 200 people a year here. In an attempt to limit this risk and reduce the dog population, the government regularly throws poisoned meat out onto the streets. Thousands of dogs die a slow and agonising death from strychnine poisoning every year, and then their bodies are dumped in the rivers, contaminating the water.
Throwing poisoned meat out on the streets for dogs to eat is not only cruel, it's a bad idea for human health. And it's not a practical solution. The dogs breed again and their numbers rapidly bounce back. It seems like a hopeless situation, but there is an alternative. A solution that's both effective and humane. And it's as easy as ABC. That's animal birth control. Welcome to the Kathmandu Animal Treatment Centre.
This centre is being built to allow street dogs to be brought in, vaccinated against rabies, and then sterilised. I'm shown round by the manager, Kageshwar Sharma.
That is the operation room, this one.
Okay.
This is going to be the premier room.
So and then normally it takes what, five, six days for the dogs to recover?
Yes.
As well as the operation theatre, kennels are under construction, where the dogs will recuperate after being sterilised. Having managed a similar project in Kalimpong in India, which was very successful, Kageshwar knows exactly what's needed.
One is just 1 feet deep on the right one. So I think
There's an awful lot to think about. We've got to think about exactly how you're going to clean all the kennels, what's the most efficient way, how the ground has to slope, etc. And hopefully we've got it right.
As soon as the dogs are fit again, they'll be released back into the same area they came from. The whole experience will be benign. In fact, the 5-star accommodation already has dogs queuing up.
This little puppy doesn't realise that we're not open yet, but it's already made it to the home. He's already had his injections against rabies and everything.
But he's dirtying my trousers, which put on clean for the mare.
The Mayor of Kathmandu arrives soon after and is given an outline of the project by Kanak Dixit, a leading journalist and one of the many well-respected people who are involved in the centre.
And that will actually drop in much more area of the city itself.
The aim is to spay females, concentrating on a district at a time, building up to 200 dogs a month.
I support this project. I'm sure within a few months this project will cover the whole area.
This little doggy would like to thank you for your words of support for the canine population of Kathmandu Valley.
Thank you.
It's countdown to opening now, and a range of medicines and books have already been donated to the project. In addition to sterilising the dogs, they'll be treated for any other ailments they suffer from. And of course, every dog will be given that all-important vaccination against rabies.
I'm completely committed to this project. It's only through a systematic programme of birth control and rabies vaccination that we can effectively and humanely manage the street dog population and so break the cycle of suffering. The Kathmandu Animal Treatment Centre will lead to a healthier and happier existence for both the street dogs and the children of Kathmandu. Your donation can make all the difference to their lives. Thank you for your support. Since we started in 2004, we've had a major impact on public health and animal welfare. We've humanely sterilised more than half the city's street dog population and vaccinated more than 25,000 street dogs against rabies, dramatically reducing the incidence of this deadly disease. In 2015, the severe earthquakes increased the number of abandoned dogs, making our work even more critical. But now we need a new home. Up until recently, our facilities have been located on rented land, which we now need to vacate. We've identified this site on the edge of the city, which would make an ideal permanent home. And we're asking for your help to purchase and develop the land. If you can help us with a donation, or for more information, please go to our website.